Hey gang, welcome back to Administrative Results Channel. I'm your host, the Talking Neck Gator with an AirPod. Today we're doing a little homage to our grandpappy, Uncle Larry out there in the world. We're doing a little Administrative Results at the movies. Today we're going over Blood Diamond. The reason we're doing this is because I always wanted Larry Vickers to go over it and I never saw him do it, and I have a camera so I can do it too. And hopefully he does his own rendition because that'll be really fun to watch his, because he's much smarter and wiser than I. But I figured, you know, it'd be fun to hop in and watch and go over Blood Diamond because a lot of that movie has greatly influenced my channel personally. Originally my name, if you didn't saw, was Executive Outcomes, which takes play off of the real mercenary group, and I'm actually kind of happy I changed it to fit more with the Blood Diamond theme of the fictional mercenary group, and now my name is like a fictional mercenary group within you know, the Blood Diamond realm. And the more I talk about my channel and how I justify its existence, the more I question my own existence. Ha! Gay! But it works out pretty nice, right? So the Blood Diamond Car 15, for whatever reason, that gun itself just, it hit me and I wanted to clone it loosely terms, and it's just a very aesthetically pleasing gun. You know, it harks back to that retro era, that where you're starting to see modern red dots, you know, flashlights coming out and they're being put on the retro era platforms. It's just, it's a whole bunch of stuff that comes together and makes a symphony of aggressively aesthetic, good-looking guns. And to me, it just hit different. And that movie, you know, it has a little bit of that controversy with it taking place in Africa, Sierra Leone, and, you know, has the background of Danny Archer with that whole controversy, the Rhodesian background. And, you know, to me, it's a really good story of redemption. It has a great and wonderful arc. And we're going to dive into it. So without further ado, we're going to be looking a lot at Danny Archer's story. Mainly, we're going with that. We're going to be looking at him. We're probably going to do a few scenes, but the ones I want to look at is when he goes as the arms deal in the beginning, when he gets his HK-USP from his bartender friend in Cape Town. No, gets his USP from his bartender friend in Freetown. So there we go. And then we're going to be looking at a few of the gunplay, and as well as we're also going to be looking at you know, that end shootout, but more so taking a look at some of the mercenary gear as well as looking at that final shootout where he gets to use that Car 15 and some of the scenes and some of the stuff I noticed in the movie. A good buddy of mine actually yesterday showed me a really funny scene with an extra when Leonardo DiCaprio threatens Solomon Vandy's son. So that's gonna be really fun to look at. So let's dive into it. Actually, okay, so before we dive fully into it, let's just touch upon one thing. If you're like, hey, how come you're not following Solomon Vandy's story? His story deserves a lot of that. It's like, yes, I know, I'm very well aware. The director did a fantastic job of showing the suffering of the African people and the conflict that does come from when, you know, that natural resource is found and all the stuff that arises. It's a pretty sad story, and when you do focus on pretty much any point in human history, there is a bandwagon of negative things attached to that. So if you have any interest in World War II, it's like, well, hey, during World War II, there was segregation. There were people getting put into Holocaust camps. And it's like, yeah, everything in human history, if you have any interest, is going to have, unfortunately, a lot of baggage. And modern society has brought that, unfortunately, to light. But with that being said, we can still look back and enjoy certain parts of history, but just understanding that history in that context. Okay. Hey gang. God, dude, I love Larry Vickers so much. What you're seeing here is Leonardo DiCaprio gets off the plane, has his pilot take off. That way, in case his boy gets nabbed or anything happens to Leonardo DiCaprio, they don't get the guns as well, because his ass is on the line from the colonel for those guns, right? And all the equipment and so on and so forth. You'll see Leonardo DiCaprio pull out a Glock 26. He then racks the round, unchambers the round, and gives his gun to Captain Rambo. I can't speak to the military nuances of, the rebels, the kind of like what goes into, why they choose their names or Western influences of those names. Much more educated guesses than I can, of course, presume. And I hope Larry Vickers will one day make a video on this and he can touch on much more of this. So essentially, to defuse the situation, Danny Archer turns over his Glock 26 to Captain Rambo and then just takes the initiative and the business deal, goes in there, talks to Commander Zero, negotiates the language.
Creole.
What?
It's called Creole. Sierra Leonean Creole, or Creole, is an English-based Creole language that is lingua franca, whatever that means. It's spoken by 87% of Sierra Leone's population. Primary language among Sierra Leoneans at home and abroad.
Oh, so Creole. Oh, okay. So camera guy just pointed out to me the language is actually mean Creole. So I knew it wasn't Afrikaans. It didn't sound like the Afrikaans language, which would be down, of course, in South Africa. But it's interesting that Leo knows, and it kind of shows to his professionalism of Leo would probably know. I would think he would have his South African accent, maybe know some Afrikaans. I could be wrong, but he would also, him knowing Creole and doing business with the Sierra Leoneans. So very interesting.
This no fine.
This no more you get. For me.
And you boys then can use one old rotten AK them against them government troop and then new weapons them, huh?
Maybe I could just kill you and take away what you bring for.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump forward. So we're at the bar scene where Danny had already given his friend some money to buy him a new pistol because he would have lost everything, any sort of handgun he had, or if he even had a handgun on him. But either way, he's in a hostile, country to some extent where rebels are rolling around, so he's going to want some protection. He gets his hands on an HK USP compact. All right, so let's watch the bar scene real quick.
I got something for me. Now what's new, mate?
Fucking are you with? Tried to hit the government building across the street. Shit, man.
Things to know. All right, so Danny has already given money to his bartender friend who knows how to source weaponry in the country. I've been curious. I would guess maybe the caliber might be 9mm. Let's go to after Freetown falls to the rebels. We're going to go to, they're trying to get out of Freetown. They're on the move. They're moving out through Sierra Leone a little bit. And they're coming across a little guard checkpoint with about, well, you find out there's 3 guards, but they initially only see 2. So we're going to watch that scene.
Not the way.
The bridge is the only way across, huh?
So what do we do?
You are all you have, huh?
Okay. A little background about Danny Archer. He is a former, so in the story you can kind of, what we gauge is he's a former mercenary, well, probably still technically a mercenary, working for Colonel Coat C, who's down in South Africa, but they used to be working for, they used to be employed by the South African government as soldiers, professional soldiers, right? So they were working in the 3-2 battalion that can speak to the military effectiveness that was South Africa at the time. Now, Danny Archer was a former Rhodesian who was raised in Rhodesia, and it's like, do we say we're Zimbabwe now? Oh no, it's Rhodesia, right? That whole bar scene with Jennifer Connelly and him. Now, his parents were killed in Rhodesia when he was young, so he moves to South Africa, gets raised there, joins the military, and then gets sent off to Angola, so he gets into the 3-2 battalion, and then ends up in Colonel Coetzee's fictional military, or fictional private military group, which everyone thinks is executive outcomes. So there's all that linear backstory that leads up to Danny Archer's character. So Danny Archer, as the story goes, he has a pretty good character line. So good layers of history in there, which is very enjoyable because I'm a big history fan. Not a history buff, but a big history fan. So a lot of that history is in there, along with the military side of the history as well. So very fun.
I am your prisoner. You want to see your son again, don't you? You stay behind me. Wait.
Woo-wee! Bring that pink chicken skin over here, huh?
Now let me shoot that pink ass man.
In that scene, you can see that his military training kicks in. He assesses the situation. He says, okay, here's the game plan. We're going to use a little ruse. We're going to use a little guise of deception. And what he does, he has Solomon Vandy use him as a hostage to play his prisoner, giving him access to his USP, which is on the rear of his person. As he approaches the two guards, he can probably instantaneously, he already has that safety off, hammer to the rear, goes, fires, puts 2 rounds into both of them. Third guy pops around the corner, so then he has to think, okay, can I get a shot? But by the time he processes it, the guy's already gone, and he starts booking it down the hill. So Danny says, okay, make sure that both of those guys are dead, picks up one of their AKs, and finishes off the third guy, because he could be potentially a threat down the road. Use of force-wise, legality-wise, you could say, hey, that guy's unarmed, he's running away. What's the morality of that? Well, they're in a different country, different set of rules. There's no court that he's going to be held accountable by. All right, so we're going to fast forward a good chunk of time ahead. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop right there. All right, so now we get to the point of contention where Colonel Coates gets off the helicopter, comes up to Leonardo DiCaprio, and this is where kind of the movie's coming to that climax. Not the climax point, but it's building up to the final ending. And Colonel Coates does a little deal with Danny at 50-50. Funny, like look at the background. Look at the extra that Danny was talking to at the beginning of the scene. You'll notice that this extra does not move at all during the entire scene. He's gonna ruin it for you, but he does not move at all. I don't know if the director told that extra to like, hey, don't move an inch. Because if you watch that extra, we'll watch them together, he doesn't move at all. It's hilarious. Okay, so let's watch the deal real quick. We'll watch the extra in there too. Okay, so talking. Extra does not move. He does not move at all.
Colonel Coetzee wants the diamond.
More than you.
You'll see Danny go. Danny even brushes past the extra to grab Dia. He grabs Solomon Vandy's son and brings him by. And the extra doesn't move at all. It's actually pretty funny. So they come to a compromise and they want to go and dig up the diamond. So Solomon Vandy takes away from the main fighting element of Colonel Coates's men and all his firepower, where they go out into the woods. You can see Colonel Coates's guys all have the infamous Blood Diamond Car 15. I don't know, maybe if he's just equipping his best guys, his guys that have served with him the longest, or his senior NCOs, or his officers, or whatever like that, right? So it looks like they're all armed with HK USPs as well. So maybe during the movie, when they're doing the whole movie gun thing, they're like, hey, let's just keep it maybe simple, a lot less moving parts, because when you are filming on locations, it's even problems get compounded and more complicated. So they're trying to streamline what they're going with. So those guys, I believe they probably have HK USPs. I know for the fact that Colonel does, he has a full-size USP that he pulls out and threatens his son with. So where the digging scene, tensions are high, right?
Hey, Butch, have you got a smoke?
Smoking will kill you.
TIA. Danny. TIA?
Why in the movie, I don't know why maybe didn't take some time to pull a med kit off one of those guys and treat, and pack his wound or something like that, because in theory, he probably was a pistol shot. If it was a rifle shot from a 5.56, it would have done a lot more damage. So maybe the round just went into him, maybe he went out the other side. I don't know. I didn't write the movie because maybe they just wanted him to die, but he could have done some treating real quick, pack the wound with some gauze, stop the bleed, stuff like that, so he doesn't bleed out on top of mountaintop later. Anyway, let's fast forward. So on the move, lead up the mountain. With him being injured, he gets to a certain point where he can't move anymore, so he gets set down to have a little heartfelt moment with Solomon Vanny. This is the good where the redemption comes into play, and you can kind of see his story arc and his character development really shine here, where he starts to realize, like, hey, you know, he's maybe seen the error of his ways on his death throne or his deathbed, so where he's now going to give the diamond, because he wanted to steal the diamond from Solomon Vandy, but instead he's going to give it to them, and then Solomon Vandy can get off the continent with his family and, you know, maybe start anew elsewhere. I don't know what he's going to do with his life. But then a round rips out through the air, breaking up the nice moment.
Go! Go! Go on!
Come on. Come on. Yeah.
Now this is like the iconic Car 15 scene right here. This is the scene that did it for me and made me want to build my own Car 15. Okay, so that pretty much covers the movie for as far as my take on it. You know, mine's a much more watered down version. I would hope Larry Vickers, if he did a version, would be much more in depth and in tune and a lot better, just because it's what he is. You know, it's Larry Vickers. You know what I mean? So it's a good homage to Larry Vickers, and I hope he's doing well because he is fighting a little bit of that cancer right now. So send some thoughts and prayers to him, and I hope he's doing better because he is a treasure in the gun world. So we're going to close out this video. Hey, if you enjoyed this, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment in the comment section down below. Hey, if you didn't like it, you're like, hey, you're ripping off Larry Vickers. It's the whole point. It's like the fun of it, right? So don't take yourself too serious. If you want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, I sell merchandise. So buy a shirt, hop down in there, become a Patreon on the Patreon channel. Patreons get to see videos first, so they're more in the know off the bat. So they get to see stuff before anyone else. If you don't care about that, then no sweat, no worries. Spend your money on what makes you happy. It's my life advice. It just helps out the channel. With that, we're going to close out, and thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe. Have a good one.